All right, so I think, it looks like things have slowed down a little bit with numbers of people joining the room. We'll probably have some people coming and going throughout, but I think it's a good opportunity for us to get started. And once again, welcome to the virtual information session for the Post-Baccalaureate Pre-Health programs at the University of Pennsylvania. My name is Jackie McLaughlin. I am the director for the programs in the College of Liberal and Professional Studies at University of Pennsylvania. And in addition to me, we are also joined this evening by Faye Patterson. Faye can give a high five there and a wave hello. Faye is the coordinator for our program and a really important first line of contact for students who are already admitted to the program and enrolled in the program. And in addition to Faye, we have Amy Mulhern, who's with us this evening. Amy is, hey, there she is. Amy is an enrollment specialist. And so if you're a prospect looking at the program and you're sending some questions in via email, it's most likely that you're going to be getting a response from Amy, and some of you may actually be getting a response from Faye or sometimes from me. So, they're always, conferring with me too in responding to students' questions. So I'm glad that you were able to join us for this virtual session. We've decided that we're doing these on a regular basis, which is actually, kind of nice since we're doing them virtually. It works out really, really nicely, I think, for us to do them more frequently. So I'm going to start off and kind of do a little view through our website, because I think our website, rather than have a slideshow for you, I think our website has a lot of really important information about the programs, the distinctions between the two programs, and what the requirements are for admissions. And so while I start with that, a kind of an introduction, a broad introduction to the programs, I want you to think maybe about what your questions are and take opportunity to start putting those questions in the Q&A box for us. And I will take breaks intermittently throughout so that we can address your questions. So the pre-health programs at University of Pennsylvania have been a really, sort of premier program in post-baccalaureate pre-health education for quite some time. I have been here for 7 years, going on 8 years, and but the program has been around quite a bit longer than that. I would say maybe even 25 or 30 years. We have two distinct programs in the pre-health programs. The first program is the core, and the core program is for students who would be characterized as career changers. These applicants typically do not have a science background. So they might have studied poli-sci or psychology or an English major or a music major. And now, because they're at a different point in their life, they're deciding that they want to go on and either switch careers or continue their education in a different direction. So these students are coming back, and for the most part, they're all needing to do sort of a basic core curriculum that includes 2 semesters of general chemistry, 2 semesters of physics, 2 semesters of introductory biology, 2 semesters of organic chemistry, including organic chemistry lab, and a course in biochemistry. All of those courses that I just mentioned total up to 13 course units. So at the University of Pennsylvania, our courses are designated as course units. A course unit, 1 course unit at the University of Pennsylvania is equivalent to 4 credits. And that's important when you get to your applications for vet school or dental school or medical school, is understanding how those course units get translated into credits. And the translation into the credits really has an impact on your GPA as well. So core students are generally taking those courses that I just outlined. And core students, because the majority of the courses that they have to take are sequential, they will choose to start either in the summer or in the fall. So I'll go over the application deadlines in a minute. But those are the two entry points for the core students. Every now and then, we have someone, particularly you'll see this with psychology majors, who have had some of those core courses, maybe the bio courses, maybe some chemistry. And so generally what we do with a student who's in between like that, we sometimes call them a blended student, is we look to see, well, how many of the core courses do they have remaining? So if 50% or more of the courses that you have to take in that core curriculum, remain, then we would want you to apply to the core. If you have fewer than 50% of those courses remaining, you might choose to do the specialized program. That's a really nice thing to have a conversation with an advisor about. Because for some students, maybe even though they fall at that 50% mark and have had some sciences, we might encourage them to take more sciences, and that might be based on their undergraduate record, academic record, or something like that. So that's a really good decision to make in consultation with an advisor in the program who's experienced and has seen what the options are for students. So application deadlines, let me go to the application deadlines. So the application deadlines for the core, the next one would be April 1st for the summer session. And if you're applying for the fall session, we have two deadlines. We have an early decision deadline for the fall, which means your application needs to be complete by February 12th. Or the regular deadline for fall is June 1st of 2021. So those are the two starting options for the core. The other program that we have is called the specialized program, specialized science. And this program is typically referred to as an academic enhancer program. It is designed for students who have a science background. So these students may have been a bio major, a biochemistry major, maybe an engineering major, and they've had a great deal of science in their background, but maybe they don't have all the sciences that they need for this next step, or maybe they didn't perform as well as they had hoped to in their undergraduate years. And they're coming to sort of strengthen their application to take additional advanced courses to bring up that GPA and present a much stronger application upon application to professional school. So our students are maybe about 1/3 core and 2/3 specialized students in the program. So nobody here is following a cookie cutter curriculum. We're looking at each person's background to make recommendations for what are going to be the best options for them to put the best application together to support the next step. I'm going to take a break here and I'm going to look at the Q&A so that we don't have a whole lot of questions piling up at the end, and see where that takes us, okay? So, there we go. All right. The first question I'm looking at is, what is the average MCAT score of accepted students? That's a really great question to start with, because we do not require the MCAT for students to come into our program. So if I'm understanding your question right, you're asking what is the average MCAT score for students to enter the pre-health programs. We do require standardized tests. So the very first go-to and standardized test that almost everybody has is an SAT score. If you don't have an SAT score, you might have an ACT score. And many students have both an SAT score and an ACT score. Those are really the standardized tests that we're looking for. For students who have already taken standardized tests for medical school or for dental school or even for vet school, that would be the MCAT, the DAT, or the GRE. If you've taken those, you must also submit those scores as part of your application. We do not require you to take the MCAT or the DAT or the GRE for this program. The SAT or the ACT is going to suffice. But there always are some students who don't have a standardized test score. They're unusual, but they're there. Or maybe your SAT was a long time ago. In that case, you might want to consider taking the GRE. That is the sort of simplest test, less complex test, easy test for us to use as a standardized test for admission. So I hope that answered that question. And then there's a question about whether or not we can retake courses. So I'm not sure if retaking the course means if I'm in the program, let's say I'm admitted to the core program, can I retake a course at Penn that I didn't do well in at my undergraduate institution? The answer to that is yes. But then there's also the question of, if I don't do well in a course at Penn, can I retake that course? The answer to that again is yes, you can retake a course. You're going to want to make decisions about what courses need to be retaken, from your undergraduate transcript, anything like that. You want to have those discussions with an advisor. We have a very well-trained professional advising team that is an integral part of the program. And those kinds of questions are very good questions to sit down and have a really good conversation about what are the best options for me. So it's really important for someone to take a look at your whole academic, performance. What are you going to do going ahead? What are the implications of repeating a course? What are the financial considerations for repeating courses as well? So those are all kinds of really good things for you to talk about with the advising team. It's a great question, and thank you for asking. I'm going to keep moving on here. A lot of schools offer an interview to their dental medical school, to those who are in the post-baccalaureate programs. Does Penn offer this opportunity as well? Okay. I'm trying to, do you mean, does the Penn Dental School and Penn Medicine offer interviews to students who are in our program? They do, but it's not a guaranteed interview, no. So you would have to apply to University of Pennsylvania Medical School or University of Pennsylvania Dental School and be reviewed, your application reviewed as a candidate for that program to be invited to an interview. So no, there's not an agreement where we have a guaranteed interview situation. Some of the programs do have that. So particularly if it's in a medical school, a post-bac program that's in a medical school, they might have that situation tied into their program. But that is not how our program is structured. For students who are in the linkages, who are applying for a linkage application, which is very similar to an early admission to a particular school, those students who pass through the internal process and are nominated by our committee to be a linkage candidate, they do receive, all of those students receive an interview by the prospective school, but they are not necessarily offered admission. So you have to pass through that interview as well to be able to get your admission through a linkage. With COVID-19 having disrupted both volunteer work and shadowing opportunities, and in terms of admissions, is the core studies program offering leniency to applicants who have had difficulty in gaining exposure to experiences? And that's a great question too, Julianne. And the answer to that is yes. We're experiencing the same thing that you're experiencing. So students in our program have many degrees of challenges with how they're continuing to get experiences in the field. We do understand that. Your application is not necessarily evaluated on what you've been able to do during COVID-19. So one of the things that is important is that if you have been significantly impacted by COVID-19, that you tell us that as part of the application. So we do a very holistic review. We look at your academics, we look at your extracurriculars, we look at your standardized test scores, we look at your what you tell us about your interests and yourself. We look at your clinical experiences, your research experiences. And so we want to know if you've had trouble obtaining experiences for a particular reason, then let us know. All right, so that helps us understand you as an applicant a lot better. So thank you. And this next question is, I am in between doing this when I graduate next year. I'm a senior in college, or take a couple of years off and work in research. Is the latter a normal route for people to take? Well, it sort of really depends. So we do have students who apply to either the specialized or the core. I'm not sure. It sounds like maybe you might be in the specialized category. Some students do this immediately after graduating, but it also is really a good idea to think about getting some experience. So a couple of years of research is not a bad thing to do at all if you're interested in research. It's also a good way for you to have a process of discernment for yourself about what is the right career direction for you. Because pursuing medicine or dental medicine or veterinary medicine is a really long road and very intense, and sort of, how you have to sort of, focus on moving ahead for a very long period of time. And it's a very expensive road to go as well. So you want to make sure that you're making good decisions, good choices, that this is really what you want to do when you start down that path. And it's better to take time to figure that out in advance rather than jumping in and starting and then pulling out and then jumping back in again. Okay. I hope that answered that question. But you can ask me a follow-up if you want to related to that. So Maureen wants to know, how long is the core program and if all of the classes are needed? Well, you can take a look at the website. So if the website's just been updated, redone, has a really nice fresh look. So Faye has put in the URL for the website. So make sure that you take a look through the website, and in there, the core program is described as most students taking a 2-year timeline. So when students are admitted to the core, whether it's in the summer or whether it's in the fall, we give students a 2-year timeline to finish their courses. And again, the requirement is 12 course units. The majority of students take 13 course units to fulfill all those courses, and many students will even take additional course units. So 13 to 16 is the normal amount of coursework that students typically do in the core. Most students will use that 2-year timeline, but there are students who are really good candidates for doing the core in a year. If you're considering doing the core in a year, you must start in the summer. There's just so much sequential coursework that you can't possibly do it starting in the fall. So in general, people who are considering a year start in the summer, but you have to be a very, very strong student. For that, you have to have very strong background in math. You have to be ready, to jump right in with general chemistry and move full speed ahead. And it also is a good option for students who have really rich experiences because at that pace, it does not give you a lot of time for getting additional experiences, such as research or clinical experiences when they open up. So again, that's a great conversation to have. I love to have that kind of a conversation about whether or not I should start in the summer or should start in the fall when we do an admissions interview with students who are considering that. So some students, it'll be like, yeah, well, summer seems like a great option for you. And for other students, we might come back as a committee and say, you applied to start in the summer. You're a little weak in particular areas. We think if you strengthen these areas and start in the fall, you're going to have a much better outcome. So we have that follow-up conversation with students. Maybe they need to take some math in the summer before they start with chemistry and physics. And then they have a better, much better success rate. So, come with those questions if you get an interview, and we can help you make a decision that would be the best decision for you. Okay, I've been having trouble logging into my old ACT account for over a month, and I contacted the support multiple times, but they haven't been able to figure out what the problem is. I think you probably have to have that email and password that you signed up for, many years ago. So you're worried that you won't be able to get a copy of your score by the deadline. I would continue to work with the testing service and see if you can get that. If you are you do the rest of your application. If you're really struggling with that, you can reach out, send an email to our email address, the LPS email address, and that will get sent over to admissions, and they may be able to help you with that, with being able to figure out how to retrieve that score. So I would start early in that process, make sure that you're getting all the other components of your application in, and start having that conversation with our admissions team, because oftentimes they are really helpful around these issues that students might have with test scores. So good luck with that. How large is the average class size for specialized studies courses? So the specialized courses are the advanced courses, and it depends on what the course is. So the majority of the courses, so 200 level, 300 level, or 400 level courses, I would say the majority is about 25 to 35 students in a class. There are some that are limited to 20. So we have a few classes like that they just are seminar style courses. They're limited to 20 students. They have waiting lists to get in. We work the way, try and make sure that everybody gets in, as many students as we can get into classes that they want. There are a lot of classes to choose from, but some instructors do keep the number down so that the learning in the classroom can take place in a particular style. Then there are other classes, advanced classes, I'm going to say immunobiology, for example, which could be 75, 85 students. And that classroom, they manage that classroom very well with multiple TAs. And it actually is a very popular course. Great instructors in that course. It's a very demanding, difficult 400 level course, but students absolutely love it. So I haven't heard really any complaints about class size. So generally, if it's over 25 students, there typically will be a TA assigned to a course to assist with the course. And It's not as if you're in a big lecture hall with hundreds of students. The other thing that's really important to know about our classes is that you are in classes with pre-health students. You are not in classes with regular undergrads. So we are offering, the same courses, rostering the same courses, comparable courses, equivalent courses, but you are in with your peers. So this seems to work really well for adult students. It helps you connect with a community. It helps you build your support network, small study groups, and knowing that you're with your peers and everybody is kind of like-minded in your goals. So it really works well for students in the program. Thank you for asking that question. Tara has a question about the core program and how do we know whether to apply for summer or fall? I will have a year of general chemistry, but would be interested in starting in the summer if there are experiential components or substitutes for that course offered in the summer. I'm not sure what the last part of that question was about, Tara, but you decide whether or not you're going to apply to the summer or the fall. So what you might want to do if your application is ready, if you're ready to apply, you would be ready to start in the summer, is go ahead and submit your application for the summer. And if you're offered an interview, we can have that conversation about a summer or a fall start in the application interview. So it's always possible to be offered admission for the summer and then say, you know what, I'm really going to defer to the fall and start my classes in the fall. You don't have to start with chemistry in the summer. So if you've already had general chemistry, obviously we're not going to put you in general chemistry. You're going to take probably biology, or you'll take physics. Those are the types of options. So we would individualize your plan. You still would need to complete 12 course units. So if we're substituting, instead of the chemistry courses, if you already completed that, you would be taking advanced biology courses to fulfill your 12 credit requirement, your 12 CU requirement for the core studies program. Okay, let me know if you still have questions about that. Thanks. Okay, so I guess the questions are really flying in here. What I was going to do was break it up a little bit and go back and talk about what's on the website, but I think you're doing a great job of addressing questions that are very well-rounded. So I'm going to keep going. And someone here wants to know, what is the acceptance rate into the program? And do you only accept a specific amount of people each year? No, we don't have a limit on the number of people that we accept. I have never reached a point in the admissions for the program where I have had to turn people away. Sometimes it can become challenging for people to get all the classes that they want, particularly if it's a class that's limited to 20 people. But we have so many options for students to choose from. So we have not only, a depth of content in the courses, but we have a great breadth in terms of availability and options of courses for people to choose from. So it's usually not a problem. And if you can't get into histology in the fall, most likely you're going to get into histology in the spring. Okay, so that's one of our popular courses that is a little bit smaller. We do have a new course that's being offered this spring. We'll have a pathophysiology course that's going to be taught by Dr. Lisa Whitmer. So in the fall, she teaches physiology, and then she'll be teaching an advanced course in pathophysiology. And so this spring will be the first time she's launching that. So that's kind of exciting to see that happen as well. So back to the acceptance rate. So the acceptance rate for people who apply to our program runs about 35–40%. Okay. Our courses typically offered during the day or the evening. The LPS courses for the pre-health program are offered in the evening. The courses for the regular undergrads are offered during the day. And the LPS courses then, when we're on campus, are offered in the evening. So this raises a good question with how do we deliver courses during COVID? So with COVID, back in the summer, we went with all online. All of our courses were being delivered remotely, and we continued that into the fall with an online format. So there is a regularly scheduled time for students to meet in a synchronous way at a specific time and be engaging in class, but there also is class time that occurs asynchronously that you're doing on your own and at your own pace. But when we're in a normal face-to-face environment, post-COVID, we'll be going back to a normal face-to-face environment, and those classes will be in the evening, okay? So I'm a senior undergrad right now, and if I was looking to apply for this program for next fall, what would you recommend I should be doing this summer? Okay. I'm not sure if I have enough information to give you a real specific answer, but it depends on what you're interested, what career path you're interested in. Are you interested in medicine? Are you interested in veterinary medicine and dental medicine? I think it would be a great thing for you to use your time to try to get some experience. So getting some experience either in research or getting some experience shadowing, if those are options available. Shadowing is really difficult right now, but there are some times that you can do some things with shadowing via telemedicine. So those are the kinds of experiences that would be valuable for you based on what kind of career path you were interested in. It's finding out more about that career path. Okay. We are only eligible for the linkage program after we completed all 8 course units for the specialized program. Okay, for the specialized program, we have 2 linkage programs. One is with the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. The other one is with Rutgers Robert Wood Johnson. The RWJ linkage requires that you complete your coursework in 1 year. And I believe, I hope I'm not misspeaking, but I believe that the PCOM one allows a 2-year for coursework to be completed. We also have a brand new linkage that we're working on right now with New Jersey Medical College, and they are accepting specialized students for that one as well. And we're looking at a 1-year or a 2-year timeline for course requirements to be done. But you don't wait until you fulfill all of your coursework at Penn to apply for linkage. Usually you have that conversation early on. So in the admissions interview, you want to have a conversation about your interest in linkage. In your first semester, when you have your first advising, you want to bring it up with your advisor about whether or not you think you could potentially be a good candidate for linkage. We need to have a track record of your performance in the program. So you need to complete for any linkage program at least grades from 1 semester so that you have a GPA within the program. Every linkage agreement has requirements for your undergraduate GPA coming into the program. So, it's really dependent on which school you're looking at and what that school is looking for in a linkage candidate. So it's great to have that open up that conversation, any time that you're interested in that. But no, you don't wait until your coursework's done to bring it up, okay? Are most incoming students right out of college? No. So we have a fair number though, and I haven't looked at it. I would say maybe half the students are coming to us right out of college, and other students a year, 2 years or more. And then we have students who have been out working in other careers, going to graduate school, getting graduate degrees, and doing other things for quite a few years before they come back. So while our average age for students is around 25, 26, we do have students who are younger and we have students who are older. And that doesn't seem to be an issue. I think, it's, there's a lot of camaraderie and support and collegiality in the program, and people are all non-traditional students. So it's not so much focused on age, but I think students really appreciate the diversity of backgrounds that all of our students have in the program. It just makes for a richer experience all the way around. Esther wants to know, do you have to take the MCAT for the linkage program? If so, are we supposed to take it while we're on our second semester, for example? Okay. Almost every linkage has a requirement for the MCAT. And again, they set the requirements that they want to see in their linkage applicants. Some of our linkage agreements have waived the MCAT, but they want to see standardized test scores like SAT test scores when they were taken in a certain range, which are very high. So it really depends on which linkage program you're talking about, whether or not the MCAT is waived. And they will establish what score they want on the MCAT and what score they want to see on each subset. And usually you only get one chance in taking the MCAT to achieve that. So there's a lot of qualifying criteria that's established to be a linkage candidate, and it's a very high bar. So again, it's a great conversation to have either with admissions or with an advisor in the program to see whether or not you might be a really good candidate for linkage. We're always looking, to identify students who are and somebody who wants to do it. And some students decide they don't want the MCAT timeline in that spring. Might be really too challenging with studying coursework as well. And they don't want to jeopardize not doing as well on the MCAT as they might otherwise. So they might opt to not do linkage and apply broadly and give themselves a little less pressured time frame within which to take the MCAT. Do people have jobs at the same time that they're studying? So I guess you're wondering if people are working. Can you work and do this program at the same time? So for many of us, we have to work and go to school at the same time, particularly, when you're an adult, you have adult responsibilities. It is very, very, very difficult to attempt to do the core program and work. The core programs are very demanding because they have a lot of the laboratory courses involved. Now, many of the specialized students do work. Many of them work full-time and go part-time in their coursework, may take 2 courses this semester in the evening and working full-time during the day. Many of them are working in research, so this works out really nicely with their schedule, but not so easy, for the core students because the time demand on those laboratory courses is much greater. So we generally do not recommend that core students be working and trying to take this program. So it has not worked out for those who've tried it. But that's something that you need to have a conversation with during your admissions interview and also with an advisor. Very important information to talk about. So really get a sense, is this the right program for me? Should I be doing it at this pace? Is there a different pace that I should be pursuing? Let's see. Do you screen people out if they already, oops, that jumped on me. If they already had a really high science GPA and have completed all the prereqs? I'm not sure that I understand that question. Do we screen people out if they already have a really high science GPA and completed all their if a person has a high science GPA and completed all of their prereqs and were applying to our program for some particular reason, they would be applying to the specialized program. Not every student who applies to the specialized program has a problem with their GPA. Many of them have very good GPAs, and they're just here because they want more time. Maybe they're not ready. Maybe they're seeking more experience to make their application stronger. And at the same time, they're still continuing to learn and continuing with science to advance in their science foundations and keep that GPA up. And keep them competitive. So, you know, that's very personal. I'm not quite sure how else I can answer that, but thanks for the question. And how many students do you anticipate to accept for the summer term for the specialized program? I haven't started to look at the summer applications yet. So hopefully we have a robust amount. It's going to be, it's an interesting question in light of COVID, because some people may have deferred applying to a post-bac program because of the situation, and other people might be saying, well, now's the perfect time for me to jump in. So I'm not really sure, but we generally might have about 50 or so students starting in the summer, and that's between the core and the specialized. Okay. If you take a class, will that grade override the previous, retake a class, will that grade override the previous grade you got on your transcript? And how does that work with your science GPA? No, if you retake a class, let's just take one class, for example, let's take general chemistry, your first semester. If you didn't do well in general chemistry, you got a C-, you're retaking that course. What will happen with your GPA when you apply to medical school, both courses will be added from the respective transcripts, and they will be added into your GPA. So while you might retake the course and get an A, that's fantastic. At another institution, that's great. That shows that you can now do the work, but it does not replace that C-. So that will always be part of your GPA. So that's why for someone who has for whatever reason, had a difficult time with their GPA undergrad and now wants to come and strengthen their GPA, sometimes it's very hard and takes time and a significant amount of courses to bring that GPA up to a competitive range. During the summer semester, are the specialized studies classes offered, or are they only offered fall and spring? Oh, no. There are specialized courses in the summer. We do offer them as well. So for specialized students, I had mentioned that for core students, the applications is open for summer and for fall semesters only. But for specialized students, they can apply summer, fall, and spring. So we offer those courses all year round. Okay, can we take general university courses from outside of LPS? Well, you're eligible to do that. But again, I would recommend you do that in consultation with an advisor. You're here for a specific reason, and you have specific amount of courses that you must fulfill for committee letter requirements or for your certificate requirements. However, Some students may come into the program and not have any behavioral science background, and some of the schools that they're looking at are expecting them to have maybe 3 to 6 credits in behavioral sciences. So yes, in that case, I would say yes, absolutely, go ahead and, take a medical sociology course or that sort of thing during the time that you're here. But that does not take away from the requirements that you have, to meet in our program. So I hope that answered that question. And can accommodation for courses or exams be made for people who are also working full-time? Well, for people who are working full-time, you need to make sure when you register for a course that you're able to fulfill the time commitments of the course. Accommodations are not made for different times for you to take courses because of your work schedule. So that's a very important consideration. Is this the right time for me? Do I have the time to return to school? Am I going to have the time to study and do what's expected of me as a student? Or do I need to take maybe a little bit more time and clear, my plate so that I'm able to think about returning to school and being able to fulfill my obligations as a student? Now, if someone is ill, there's an illness or some other, extreme situation, there's always, you have a conversation with your instructor, and depending on what their course policies are, you'd have to fulfill those, follow the guidance on that. But no, they don't accommodate your work schedule. Sorry. Okay, so wow, we blew through all those questions. And oops, we still have another Raina Tara's come back with another question, so that's great. Okay, how many course units does a full-time student take in a single semester? And how about for the summer term? So a full-time student generally per semester is 4 course units. 3 course units would be 3/4 time, 2 course units would be half time. Most part-time students are taking 2 course units a semester. And full-time students, as I said, are taking 4 or more. So if it's a course student and you're full-time, generally you're taking more than 4 course units in a semester. For specialized students, it generally is 4. And it's very easy to do the specialized program with 4 course units in the fall, 4 course units in the spring, and send your application off, and you're done with the program. So it's much more time and courses for the specialized students. So summer term, same thing, but a summer term, first summer term is 5.5 weeks. So we take a 14-week course and condense it into 5.5 weeks. And generally during the summer, if you're taking core courses, those are sequential courses. So you'd be taking the first half of introductory bio and the second half of introductory bio, each one a 14-week course in a total of 11 weeks. So they're very condensed, they move very fast. And generally, we do not recommend that a student take more than 3 course units in the summer, just because of the pace of the courses. Okay. I am graduated with a BS in physics outside of the United States. What is your specific requirement for applicants, in this case, for the core program? That's really a good idea. I do not know if you are a citizen or not. So generally, you could apply to the core program if you are an international student. There is information for international students on the website. If you are a citizen who did their studies outside of the United States and you got your bachelor's in physics, if it was in English, it usually, is not a problem. There may be some courses that need to be repeated. It depends on the situation. So that's a very good question, though. So again, if you're a citizen and you just did your studies outside of the US, it could be very straightforward. If you're an international student, take a look at the information for international students that's on the website. So that should give you a little bit more guidance. And okay, we have another question. On the application, should we upload our transcripts even for schools we're still attending? Is there a way to indicate what courses we will take next semester before entering the program? There's no way to really tell us what courses you're going to be taking in the future. But yes, so if you haven't received your degree yet and you are going to be planning to graduate in the spring, go ahead and, you submit an unofficial transcript, that's fine. Before students actually start the program, if you're offered admission, we need to have a final official transcript that shows that your degree was conferred. So that's really, an important next step. But for submitting your application, you can go ahead and submit, an unofficial transcript to, if you're still in progress, and that'll be enough to get you into the pipeline for the application process. Will a W on my undergraduate transcript from my previous institution weigh heavily on the admissions decision when applying for the core studies program? One W? No. A series of W's will raise some questions. A whole semester of W's, we want to understand it. So if there's a situation that happened, maybe you became ill and needed to withdraw from a semester to recover and came back, we want to understand that. Anything that's on your transcript that is a little outside of the norm, let us know about it. So what was the situation with the W? And why do you have the W? Just let us know. And one W, no, is not a problem. But what we look for is patterns. So there might be someone who has a pattern of W's, every semester. And that could be for a variety of different reasons. So we want to really understand what's going on. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So thank you very much. I think we're just about out of time. So Faye, thank you very much. Faye has put a little bit of information in the chat box for you. So I hope that you had time to get all of your questions answered. If you haven't, make sure that you follow up with us. The email is there, and we definitely want to hear from you. We will have, be up and running for the summer. I do not know yet if classes are going to be face-to-face, but whatever it is, we're going to have a lot of great options for you for spring, summer, and fall. So we look forward to hearing from you again. Thank you very much for attending. I really appreciate it. Bye-bye.